Headlines about new carry-on luggage limits and confusing updates on liquid restrictions are creating chaos at airports, leaving travelers uncertain about what they can bring on board. Today's video will clarify what's changing and what you need to know for your next domestic or international flight. There are two main points causing most of the confusion. The first is the evolving rules for carry-on liquids due to new airport security scanning technology in the US and Europe, and the second is the changing allowance for carry-on luggage size and weight. We'll break down both topics so you know exactly how to prepare for your upcoming flight. I'll also reveal some clever yet fully compliant strategies to outsmart the airlines without causing any trouble at the boarding gate or at airport security. For the past 2 decades, U.S. travelers have followed the 311 liquids rule, which mandates that all liquids be in containers of 100 milliliters or less and packed in a single quart-size bag for the airport security screening process. Travelers are also required to take this single bag of their liquids, remove it from their carry-on luggage, and place it in a gray screening bin at airport security, with some exceptions, like for TSA PreCheck members who can leave liquids inside of their luggage, but still have to pack with these restrictions. New high-tech CT scanners, which provide a clearer view of carry-on contents, are being introduced at some U.S. airports. These new scanners allow more travelers to keep their liquids packed away in their carry-on luggage as opposed to pulling it out in a screening bin. But for now, the 311 rule for packing your liquids and removing your liquids bag is still going to be the case at the majority of airports since the technology is rolling out on a pretty slow basis. Even airports that have rolled out these new CT scanners do occasionally revert back to older systems, so you should always be prepared, unless you have TSA PreCheck, to pull out a clear plastic bag of liquids and toiletries for airport security. Leaving this bag of liquids packed away in your carry-on or in your personal item bag as you go through airport security is most likely going to set the alarm off on the scanner, at which point all of your carry-on items are going to need to be searched, which is both time-consuming and can be quite stressful. If you are taking an international flight to Europe or flying within Europe, you've likely heard about the Europeans outdoing the Americans with new scanners that permit travelers to not only keep their liquid bag packed away at airport security, but also allows travelers to bring up to 2 liters through the security checkpoint, which is double what we can currently travel with in the United States. Cities like London, Rome, and Amsterdam started to relax their liquid rules accordingly this past summer, allowing you to travel with more liquids and not have to remove them and place them in a screening bin at airport security.
It's only installed in some airports. It's equipment which aims to allow passengers to take on board liquid containers over 100 milliliters.
However, due to technical setbacks, all EU countries and the UK have reverted back to the 311 liquid rules that we have all been following for decades, as well as, once again, requiring travelers to pull out their liquid bag for separate screening. The bottom line for your next flight is that whether you are flying within the US or to Europe or within Europe, stick to packing your liquids according to the traditional 311 liquids rule. While you may occasionally pass through the airport security checkpoint without having to remove your liquids from your bag, it's still not the norm. As of October 2024, nothing has functionally changed with the way that you pack or have to remove your liquids going through airport security, unfortunately. Next, let's address what you need to know about your carry-on and personal item allowance for your next flight. There's been a lot of talk and scary news articles warning travelers of the carry-on crackdown in the US affecting both international and domestic flights, as well as the apparent new carry-on size and weight limits across all airlines in Europe. Let's start by addressing what's happening in the US. The reality is that airlines haven't changed their carry-on rules. Although it may feel like new rules are in place, airlines claim that these policies have always existed and they're just being enforced more consistently today. For example, a gate agent might now enforce that a blanket counts as your single personal item like a backpack would, when in the past you may have gotten away with a carry-on, a personal item, and a blanket as you board the flight. Over in Europe, there's been talk about standardizing the carry-on allowance in terms of the size and the weight of what you can bring on board across all European airlines. This discussion was sparked by a 2023 briefing paper from members of the European Parliament who noted that inconsistent rules among airlines lead to confusion and unexpected fees. The proposal suggested a unified carry-on size limit, which would mean travelers could purchase carry-on approved luggage with the confidence that it would be accepted on any European airline. This standardization of carry-on size and weight is a win for us travelers since it clears up confusion caused by every airline having their own set of rules on how much you can bring on board. It's also a win for travelers since the proposed standard size and weight likely require many European airlines to increase their current teeny-tiny carry-on allowance limitations. Having a standard size and weight allowance across all European airlines, an allowance that is more generous than what many of these airlines are offering individually, is definitely going to be a win for travelers. Assuming it actually happens, which as of right now, it's not happening. Despite these discussions, no standardized rules have been implemented yet. This means that if you did follow the rumored standard size allowance for the airline, it could leave you facing unexpected check-in fees for a bag that you thought would be accepted, but didn't actually follow that individual airline's rules. The bottom line is that there are no actual changes in policies around what you can and can't bring on the plane, whether you are flying domestically within the US or internationally to Europe or between European countries. While it's not convenient, it is essential to continue checking the official websites of the airlines that you are flying with to avoid any surprises at the gate, such as unexpected fees or being forced to check in a bag for having it be over the airline's carry-on allowance rules. So despite no actual changes in the rules on US airlines or European airlines, the reality of stricter enforcement in the US and the varying, sometimes minuscule allowances of European airlines mean that you do need to be savvy about how you pack for a flight. When I travel, I usually stick with a carry-on rolling suitcase and a backpack as my personal item. A carry-on suitcase can help you maximize your carry-on allowance, but there is one major downside. Rolling suitcases are often the first to get checked in at the gate if overhead space on the plane runs out. And unfortunately, it appears to run out often, pretty much every flight. On the other hand, passengers with carry-on backpacks instead of suitcases typically get to keep theirs on board, even if their backpack is actually bigger than another passenger's carry-on suitcase that was forcibly checked to baggage claim. But I personally do not find traveling with a carry-on backpack to be ideal. I much prefer to keep my back free for a personal item instead, and then large backpacks also don't offer the same organizational benefits that a clamshell suitcase does. A sneaky hack that I use to avoid having my luggage checked in at the boarding gate is to choose a large personal item bag as my carry-on instead of a carry-on suitcase. My go-to is the bento bag by our longtime channel partners over at Nomad Lane who are sponsoring today's video. The bento bag is designed to be a personal item, so it always fits within an airline's carry-on restrictions and avoids the risk of being checked. This bag also offers all the organizational perks that I love about a suitcase, with its convenient clamshell opening style for easy access and organization. It's also worn crossbody, leaving room for a personal item backpack to complete the perfect travel packing setup. This combination lets me maximize my packing space without worrying about oversized baggage fees or the hassle of having to check in a carry-on suitcase. You may have also noticed that I'm using black bags, which is something that I usually recommend against. In this case, it's strategic, since dark colors, especially black, create the optical illusion of appearing smaller than they are, which helps at the boarding gate. Since black bags are common, you may want to consider adding a distinctive tag or a ribbon or some other distinguishing feature to make yours easy to spot. I'll put a video on the screen now that dives deeper into the carry-on crackdown in the US and little-known tips on how you can make sure you always know exactly what your carry-on allowance is and you never get stuck at the boarding gate with extra fees. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join us back here for more travel tips and hacks each week, and I will see you in that next video soon. Bye. Say bye.